Yes. Get an email. Have you been getting an email from you? Is this the first time you get it?
No, second time.
Second time? They will notify you on the site that they're all, depends on what kind of problem they specialize in. The problem, depending on the problem, you can have the doctors with let's talk to them. California is Santa Barbara Herbal Center. Dr. Henry Hunt is very good. So if you write an email to me, I'll give you the information. You will see. It is both Eastern and Western medicine. He works with oncologist. He's related to我也不清楚，因为他们一直在做的，一年做有公司啊什么，现在一直在做。在Yale University 他们做很多。你讲的中国，然后来自那个 effective and so.哦，那个是跌打酒精，跌打酒精，那个跟cancer无关。cancer 你千万不要玩的。Okay, let's get going again. Let's start. Okay, so an example of Western medicine converging towards Chinese philosophy of multi-drug, multi-target. I'll give you a couple of examples. First one you know very well, probably, the treatment of AIDS. Okay, AIDS used to be a death sentence. Now you cannot cure it, but people seem to lead a productive life for the while. So you can see here treatment of AIDS in terms of killing HIV. One drug, two. But if you have all two together, they work a lot better in killing HIV. But perhaps a more common example is the treatment of diabetes. In the old days, diabetes is caused by not secreting enough insulin. So inject insulin, okay, that's a single drug, single target. Okay, the insulin will affect or improve sugar transport. But now, there's a whole battery of drugs to use for diabetics. You can boost insulin secretion by the pancreas, okay? You also have a drug that could block absorption of sugar into the bloodstream in the first place, and you have another drug that could block reabsorption of sugar by the kidney into the system, and you can have another drug that could block the liver, making more glucose in your body, and you can also have a drug that helps the brain to send a stronger signal to the pancreas to secrete more insulin. So this is a very good example of multi-drug, multi-targeting strategy used by Western medicine. Individualized prescription, okay, is obviously outgrowth of the philosophy of heal the whole person. Well, every person is different, so you need a different prescription for each person. Maybe if you use a personal example here, okay. A few years back, I visited a herbal drug company in China, and I said, I don't have anything wrong with me, but I'd like to bring some samples back to show my students. And they said, oh yeah, sure. You know, preventive medicine, okay? Why don't you take some, tonic wine that could, make your whole body stronger so you don't get sick. I said, that sounds good. Okay, so give me some. He said, well, I don't just give you some. I want to give you something just for you. Okay, good, okay. So they said, all right, first we sell a package, a pre-package of these guys, okay, for everybody. Okay, you got ginseng, soyang, and the different things in there. So this is good for everybody. But he said, so you're a professor, right? Yeah, I'm a professor. So he said, you probably read a lot, okay, use computer a lot, use your eyes a lot. So I'm gonna, in addition, add some honghua, where this is good for eyes, okay? And you probably use your brain a lot, right? You're a professor, okay? So I'll give you an extra dose of the specialized ginseng, okay? And then you're a Qigong master, you do breathing exercises a lot, okay? So, hey, you strengthen the lungs. I'll give you a bigger piece of soyang instead of this small piece, okay? I give you a bigger piece. And so forth and so forth. And then he said, well, you're from the United States, right? Yeah. Oh, you make a lot of money. Just today, we got a shipment of snow dog sex organ. Sex organ from this dog from Tiansan, very rare. They'll do wonderful things to your sex life. But it's very expensive, but you can afford it. I said, well, I don't get it, but give it to me anyway. So with all of this, I put it in this bottle, I soak it, and I'm supposed to drink a little bit of this every day. See, that's personalized medicine and preventive medicine. But another example, sadly, is Western medicine now is using DNA technology to check for gene mutation and so forth, right? And one particular example is Angelina Jolie, okay? She had a mastectomy as a prophylactic procedure not long ago. Because normally the lifetime risk of getting breast cancer for ordinary people is about 10%. But for people who, is the camera turned on? Camera? Turn back on? Yeah. Okay. But for people who have a mutation in the BRCA1 gene, okay, and the BRCA2 gene, their chances of getting cancer go up to 50 or more percent instead of like 10%. In case of Angelina Jolie, her chances went up to 87% in the future, okay? So she elected to have her breast surgically taken out, even though she seemed perfectly fine now. Because by doing so, she decreases her chances of getting breast cancer from 87% to only 5%. So she thought that was something that's worthwhile to do. I mean, a very drastic, preventive measure, but it was a matter of life and death. So this is personalized medicine at the molecular level or the genetic level. Okay, moving on. Modernization of Eastern medicine. So What's missing here is the cartoon I made up, but it's not showing up. The turtle and the rabbit running a race, right? So if you look at traditional Chinese medicine as a turtle, so for thousands of years, the race has only one participant, the turtle. The turtle always wins, no matter what, right? But now we have the rabbit, okay, Western medicine, developing fast, but expensive, okay, and effective treatments. So Chinese medicine is falling behind in effectiveness, although it's very safe, okay, and effective, but it's many times not as effective as Western therapies. But the Western therapies have the downside of side effects and expense, okay. So the National Center for Complementary Medicine and Integrative Health within the Department of Health and Human Services, and I have a close link with them for all these years. They have now changed the focus from clinical trials to see whether acupuncture works or this herb works or not, to mechanistic studies. So for the next 5 years, they're putting all their bets on mechanistic studies. How does acupuncture work? How does this herb work? Because if we can improve on the ancient methods by high technology, then we would have the benefit of no side effects and higher effectiveness and low cost. Okay? Mechanistic studies can review how traditional therapies such as acupuncture can be optimized clinically and economically. So let me give you some examples. We talk about herbal medicine, okay? So if only we could isolate a single magic bullet and make a pill out of it, okay, it would be rich and we would have something that's effective and safe and so forth. Unfortunately, as I've been showing you, that's very, very difficult because once you start separating things, they don't work. But there's one shiny example of success. 2015 Nobel Prize was given to Tu Yu for isolation of a single compound out of this really common, herb called Artemisia. Artemisia grows all over the place, I was in Central Park in New York and I saw it growing all over the place, okay? But she was trained as a pharmaceutical chemist, but also did some studies, also studied traditional herbal medicine. And she thought, if I could get, the single compound, magic bullet out of this, and make this into a drug for malaria, then we would save millions of lives per year, okay? And she succeeded and was given the Nobel Prize this year for medicine. So from this very common herb, she isolated this compound, which she calls artemisinin. Okay, single compound, and it works very well in blocking the life cycle of the parasite that causes malaria. Yeah, nobody gets malaria in the United States, but millions of people die of malaria in Africa and Central Asia and so forth. Okay, because the malaria has to go through this life cycle. It's carried by the mosquito. The mosquito introduces in the body, and then goes and so. To make a long story short, artemisinin blocks this step, and it's the single most effective drug for treating malaria. Therefore, the Nobel Prize. Now, unfortunately, that's one of the very, very rare examples of success because once you start to separate things out, they don't work anymore. But I do want to mention that. Now, so what are we to do? Okay, the FDA in the United States had not been giving approval to complex herbal mixtures approval as drug. they are called dietary supplements. I talked about that 2 months ago. But a landmark decision was made in 2006. The Germans, okay, found a way to extract green tea you drink, making extract out of it, did extensive clinical trials, and found that it's very effective in treating genital warts, of all things. God knows why. I mean, I think somebody spilled why? It works, okay. So they now, okay, call this extract, complex extract, polyphenol E, and this is an ingredient in commercial products marketed as Verogen for treating genital warts. And the FDA gave them approval as a drug, okay, as a drug, even though it's not a single compound, opening the way for other drug companies to come up with complex herbal extracts, and that can be shown by, phase 1, 2, 3, 4 clinical trials that it's effective. It's been almost 10 years. What the drug companies have been doing is playing games, okay? Instead of using this as an example, all too often you see herbal preparations that says FDA approved. They're fooling you, okay? Because it's very easy to get approval from the FDA for what's called IND, investigational new drug. And you get approval, get a number to do clinical trials. This is before you do clinical trial, you have to get approval just to do clinical trial. So the companies get this approval, they never do the clinical trials. They market this extract as, FDA approved. And most people had in the seminar, they wouldn't know the difference. FDA approved. Okay, this is just like drug. Actually, it's not. So there are many unscrupulous companies playing this game. They're dietary supplements, and it's FDA approved. Okay, approved only for doing future clinical trials. But the trials have never been done, and the companies have no intention of doing the trials. They just want to fool you by putting the stamp, FDA approval. Okay, next, acupuncture-related therapies that are high-tech. It used to be, you just put a needle and 行针, use the finger to twirl the needle, okay? Now, people like us, in our lab as well as in UCI laboratories, we found that when you put electrical pulses, it's actually better than using the finger, okay? And at UCI we found that, for instance, in decreasing high blood pressure, if you use electrical pulses, the high blood pressure will come down for longer time than if you just use the hand manipulation. But Han Zhiseng at Beijing University found something remarkable. He found that the body responds differently if you have high frequency pulse versus low frequency pulse. At low frequency pulse, like by hand, it would be like 2 times a second, okay? At 2 times per second, okay, using electrical pulses, you can control that very well. The brain secretes a particular type of endorphins called enkephalins. But at higher pulses, the brain will respond by not putting out enkephalins. It puts out dynorphins. It's a different type of endorphins that has a different property. So the body actually could sense, the frequency of the stimulation and send out different things. Just like when you go to the drugstore, the doctor could write down, and give you this antibiotic or that antibiotic. Okay, so the brain could actually give you this or that type of endorphins if you stimulate the needle electrically through the needle at high frequency and low frequency. So here is how high tech is like improving, because your finger could never be twisting fast enough, you know, at 100 hertz, you cannot do that. But with this instrument, you know, you can set it at different rates. Also, okay, we're experimenting together with Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Well, what if you don't even use the needle? What if you just send electrical pulses directly onto the acupuncture point, skip the needle? See, the thing with the needle is in California, you cannot put a needle in somebody unless you are a licensed acupuncturist. And to even take the licensing test, okay, exam, you need 4 years of training. Okay, you have to have proof that you have 3.5 years of training before you can even take the exam. So, you know, it's not that easy to become an acupuncturist. But for $30, you can buy an electrical stimulator, and you can put pulses on yourself, you know, on these acupuncture points. And our colleague in Hong Kong found that in this particular clinical trial, they want to measure something that can be objectively measured. So diabetic patients, you can, you know, prick the fingers and measure sugar level in the blood very easily and accurately. They found that the patients who buzz themselves with this $30 thing, okay, twice a day at a particular acupuncture point, no needles, just do it at home, they decrease the sugar level quite a bit, and the so-called hemoglobin A1C comes down very significantly just from that. So this is cheap and takes